leaking into the drill. So this one, that the container is empty, is not showing. That means the brew unit will still go from home to work. The consumer may detect something is wrong and you need to fill up the bean container. On this set, you know, we stop basically using the sensor at the grinder, the Hall sensor, where we can really count, I would say, how many turns the grinder makes. And of course, if the grinder runs empty, you have much more turns or higher frequency on the signal than when it works under last and have beans. So basically, this Tahoe information is missing per concept, and at the moment we can only detect, I would say, the lack of beans basically via the power consumption or the current via the gear motor. So there is an algorithm, of course, in the software to detect, but maybe not sharp enough. Depends on the type of beans. If you have very soft, small beans, then maybe the grinder runs anyhow already, even if the grinder is full with beans, it's more in a relaxed situation. And then from there to detect from relaxed to empty is maybe just a small gap, and that's a bit the topic the set is simply not able to detect. So what can we do on that? Nothing. We can only inform the consumer that sometimes it may happen. And of course it's really sometimes. So if the consumer may fill the container, at least in the way how we have reproduced it, if the consumer if you fill the container 20 times, you may see it once. So what we actually have, and is also attached like in the service information, we have there's an attachment for like a consumer letter, a typical NFF letter, where we explain exact the same situation to the consumer and say, usually before you may start, and of course this is also the good thing on these devices, I would say to detect if you have beans in or not, it's also not so complicated. Anyhow, if either you see water in your coffee, or you may have an alarm on the display, your action is clear, you need to have to fill the beans. It's only, I would say, a different, maybe you get the alarm in that way a little bit delayed. So at the moment we really ask the consumer to accept, and a few may not, okay, then indeed we have to go for a non-standard exchange. There is no other solution on that. But so far, I will say this, the issue is not really a big one. But in fact, there will be no other solution than that. So at the moment, it's still a little bit the topic with the chosen algorithm to detect based on the power consumption. So what is also new, of course, maybe let me bring it a bit more into higher position. May you have already detect that, of course, our fantastic connector in the Minuto platform, we move basically from this one with the ripples on, we use now this one. And of course, for this one we have to use Oettinger clamp to crimp the hose on the connector, whereas here we use tie wraps. Really? The good thing is, of course, the tie wraps are much cheaper than an Oettinger clamp. An Oettinger clamp, even if you buy it directly at Oettinger's site, usually you have we have a price of minimum €1. Just for a small metal ring, it's nice price. A tie wrap, you get for a few cents. But you are not allowed to use tie wrap from the free market. The issue is, of course, in the service information and also in the exploded view, and you open a new one where this has been used, you will see the 12C for the tie wraps. The issue with the tie wraps is, especially if you use them in an area with a constantly temperature up and down, they simply run out, or they dry out, so the material becomes very hard. So any flexibility of the tie wrap is gone, most likely in a very short time. And then of course it is really so hard, sooner or later they just crack and then fall into the set, but then of course you have no longer a connection or a tightening on the hose, and then of course the leaking will start. So that's why please be careful. The tie wrap needs to be really the original one, as here the level of nylon inside in the material is much higher, and they are specified not to get corroded or get hard over, I will say, a period of time. So this is really important. The second part, and that's why I also put the tool in here, due to the position where this is mounted, it can be a bit tricky to really tighten it hard. So that's why I prefer simply this one. So it's a tie scraper in that way. I give you. So if you have normally the nylon wire, and of course, usually first you make the loop, of course, and then of course you can it's really pushing it in. I will give it a round. Usually a tool like that you can buy at Amazon for, I think, 10-15 euro. So quite effective, and really you can really tight. Here in this way you can even adjust a little bit the counter pressure. There are even higher price sets who may do, after reaching, I will say, a certain level, there's even a cutter in here and cut then the wire away. So if you put maybe 10 euro more on the tools, then you may even get one with a cutting. So please keep in mind, so don't use any more Oettinger clamp. If you have this connector, basically a pipe with the small hooks at the end, this is not designed for Oettinger clamps anymore. So we need to be really careful that we make a clear cut. As long as you have this Oettinger clamp, if you have this, tie wraps. Who have already used the tie wraps on the set? Still the Oettinger?
Still, yeah.
Okay,
still
good.
That's why you've seen my surprise.
Okay. That's why I put it also on the screen. Okay. Now this is exactly the reason why we also really push service information to you. Then I will say, usually you go on at your service, it's service information, just the fact that you search for symptom and cure. So normally you have already a symptom based on what is the consumer saying, like no water or whatever. Then of course, if you have not really an idea of what it is, then maybe you go on at your service website to find maybe a solution on that. Things like that, nobody is looking. That's also, I will say, a little bit the disadvantage of the approach of service information. Then, like this kind of work instruction, you do whatever you do, and then in such a case, it's so that's why we really push every week the service information. And then, usually if you read it, then they say, okay, noted, and then of course you will do it. If you don't read or even don't receive it, then it's nice that we have it already online, I think more than 2 months now. And but we also see like how many people are ordering the and actually I will say a handful of big workshops use them. I will say majority simply not. So then it's the question what and why. Either they still go for the Obi do-it-yourself shop or Hornbach, what you have here, and buy, I will say, the pack of 1,000 tie wraps for €1. Yeah, it will work on the spot, but the reliability of this repair is totally bad. And of course, tie wrap in this price level, do not expect they will stay longer. You basically also see that everywhere, and people put the satellite dishes on the roof, fixing the coax cable with the tie wraps. Half a year later, you can find the tie wraps all falling down. Then of course the material is simply not. They are so damn cheap. It's, in principle, you buy a piece of plastic. There's nothing on nylon in it. So good. This was this one. Then the last, yeah, of course, this we already discussed with the dispenser falling down. No, did we check it yesterday? No, we don't.
Yeah.
Only partly. Okay. Of course, one of the issues you may know is on the Incanto Picobaristo that the dispenser, you put it in high position, plop, it drops down. So for the consumer, it's really annoying situation. So what we have now in place is a simple activity. So this is basically the inner moving part of the dispenser, and there is a kind of silicone rubber ring is around here. Yeah, the approach is you take the ring off, you cut a piece of tape, and the tape is specified in top. Actually, we use a tape from 3M. The size of the tape is around 10 millimeters, so 10 by 3. So we cut out, I would say, at least from the roll, 3 millimeters is a B-adhesive tape, and this is the important one. The thickness of the tape is 0.5 millimeter. It should definitely not more than 0.6. Then otherwise, I would say the dispenser will never move. You can really push it up, but then it's staying for the consumer. He may have to climb on it to bring it down. So that's why the best we have in testing, we have seen 0.4 to 0.6 is the best performance. So that's why we even say, okay, 0.5, then we are really in the center of the. So what should you do with the piece of tape? As you have removed the rubber ring, you see there is a small opening. We put the tape really exact in this position. Afterwards, so we make it here a little bit bigger that you really can see the difference. You put the rubber ring above. Yeah, and then of course due to the 0.5 millimeter we have here, this thing becomes just, I would say, a bit wider. Left and right, 0.5 is around 1 millimeter, and with this, the dispenser, you can really still move it. Yeah, but of course you need to put a little bit effort on your hand. And but it's still, I would say, easy moving. It's not really that too soft, then you run the risk that it again fall down. So it's now really the consumer experience, at least with this one, is simply okay. As it is double adhesive, of course it will anyhow also glue on the rubber ring and glue on the plastic. So there is really no chance that this can disappear from the position. Of course, take care that this is not too big, like here in the example that we put it a bit bigger. Then of course, in best case, it's really exact within this window here. Then of course, then it can definitely not slip out. So this is at the moment, we have now, after a long fight with the IND department in Italy, we get now really the approval to go for this officially. And now this is indeed, whenever you see a dispenser is falling down, yeah, it's basically to reach the dispenser, I think it's approx 1 screw. Then you can already take off the lower part, the rubber ring, yeah, you just peel off, and then put a piece of tape and then bring it back. So from that moment onwards, at least for the Incanto Picobaristo, Picobaristo Deluxe, also even the latest version will still have that. You can easily solve in case consumer is not really satisfied with that. Okay, question to that? Oh, there's still one. Yeah, that was the what I already mentioned yesterday. The story with the valve block. If you have the hanging valves, even in the test mode, there's a service information for that. If you go in test mode, or even when you do a coffee, then I said you will really see that normally the coffee should flow to the spout, to the 2 openings near to the housing. But if the valve is really hanging, you really have plain water coming through to the air valve or to the air hose or the other connection for the steam. Then of course we just push water into the wrong direction, and that is also what the consumer can easily see. So detecting this failure is very easy, and of course depend if you have water left or right. You to okay, what should I give you? No, let's go directly. Good. Steam generator. So basically now we talk about this type of product. This is at the moment what we call the steam generator. Basically you have a base station with a tank in both cases. Of course the iron connected to that, and of course within this we still divide it into two groups. We have the boiler version. This is really the super premium. That means we boil the water up to steam already in the base station, and we transport via the steam port only the steam to the iron. Of course this is also optimal temp. You see there is no temperature dialer anymore. So usually the set runs in a time zone of temperature zone around 130 degrees approx. Depends a little bit on the product, can be plus minus 10 degrees. The details you always find in the service manual. In every service manual we have the exact measure about the temperature and I would say the min and max value you should have. If the set is somehow underperforming or overperforming, you have to find out why. Most probably you have to replace the sole plate, thermistor, whatever. But every set, leaving the workshop, you need to check the temperature, please. If you have an issue over here in the sink, and we have pictures where the sole plates start melting. Liquid aluminium, other iron board in a consumer home. I guess you have a feeling about that. It's really flow away like lava. So be careful. We really talk about here a critical component. We need really to make sure that the sets are working in the specification. So big difference, of course, than the other one is in fact this one. It's the non-boiler version. And you see already the size of the iron is this is much more heavy, and also the sole plate is much more bigger. Then indeed, here we only have the water tank, we have a pump, and of course it depends on the steam trigger. I pump really cold water to the hose, and of course the cold water go to the sole plate, and of course the sole plate is much higher than in this case usually, and of course have enough energy to vaporize the water into steam, and that is what you may then see finally here coming out. So already the weight of the handle is of the iron is a bit more. Okay, how does they look inside? Okay, here a little bit commercial stuff. So what is the benefit? Of course, whoever has to do the ironing, of course, as it is more light. It's easier to use than the heavy one, and of course usually also more powerful in the way that you have more steam basically on it. So here we see a little bit the technical drawing around it. Of course we have the water tank. We also have a small Hall sensor, usually tagged to that. That means if the tank is not connected, there's a small magnet then of course we will not start pumping. It's the same like in Saeco. If the water tank is empty, we need to prevent that we soak air into the pump. So for the same reason, we also have a small magnet basically in the tank compartment, and once it is connected, a small read relay is simply triggered, and then say, okay, the water tank is there. It will not say if the water tank is full or not. It's only check, I will say, the existence from the tank. From there we go to the pump. From the pump we go to the boiler. We pump water into the boiler. The boiler may start heating, so the boiler is also connected to the power PCB. We will build up steam. Then we have on the other side, we have the trigger, and whenever you activate the steam trigger, we basically open the E-valve, and then of course the steam, which is basically in a higher level on this here, like around 30%, 40% should be only steam, the rest is underneath is water. So, and then if the valve will open, the steam gets released to the hose cord, flow to the sole plate, gets again a burst, then of course the sole plate is also running on 130 degrees, and then of course the steam can escape to the sole plate. So that's, I would say, a bit the principle. Of course we also have a thermofuse at the boiler, we have a thermistor at the boiler, we have a water level sensor at the boiler, we have a safety valve in case of overpressure. Then of course we can release the overpressure in here, and then it goes back. Question to that? Oh, good. Then we have the other device, like this one. More or less the same story, water tank pump, but then as already mentioned, we do not heat up anything here, so in fact only the cold water gets pumped to the sole plate. And of course when I use the steam trigger on this iron, then of course yeah, basically we get the steam burst in addition. Now, but in fact it is constantly steaming in that way. So yeah, hose cord, I will come back later to that. Okay, where are the bottlenecks now in the architecture? So really one of the complaints we may get from consumer is the fact that when you do ironing for a longer time, that your sole plate and you hold it in this way and press the steam trigger, you can also use it as a shower. And partly we have really a serious amount of water coming really to all the holes. So if you really press it on that, the floor will be really wet. Please don't get me wrong, it's not a shower, then it's a bit hot for a shower, but it looks really like that. So what is the issue on that? The issue is we have also here the whole part is software driven. That means in best case, if the boiler is empty, let's say the set is in virgin mode, then of course the pump will start pumping water into the boiler, and then let's say usually we fill it maximum to the half. Then we heat up, we get the steam, and whenever I press the steam trigger, sooner or later we have to pump additional water into the boiler. Then of course we need to really feed the engine with water, otherwise yeah, no water, no steam. So we constantly, per software, we control that we get always a kind of kick of water into the boiler. So it may so if this is not the issue so far. So the issue may appear now. Let's say the whole set is completely heated up. Consumer do the ironing, and then sooner or later he or she will stop. That means we have an overpressure in the boiler compartment. So the boiler will cool down, the overpressure even turn in a kind of underpressure, and we have really to make sure that we have a relaxed atmosphere in the housing. So that why we have a connection in here. It means the boiler will simply start soaking due to the underpressure. And that's why we have an air valve in here. And the air valve should simply release, or say, soak air into this direction, into the boiler. Sooner or later we have a status quo and I would say no overpressure, no underpressure, just neutral. If the air valve is not working well, or the hose, which is basically is really like a hose with a dead end, it just ends in the set where the air comes in. For example, if during assembly the hose gets kinked, then of course you cannot soak anymore the air. It's a little bit like we saw also on the Celsius, like there, if the hose providing, I would say, the air for the cappuccinator, yeah, once it is kinked, no air. But what will happen? This valve is connected to the pump. If we cut the air way, then of course the underpressure will simply soak the water by the pump from the tank. And this causes that our level is not maybe 500 milliliter, maybe it is cooling down, say we have already 550. A week later the consumer do exactly the same. We do the ironing and so on, and also switch off the device. And we soak again water into that. Step by step, we fill up the boiler really to the max. Yeah, but if the boiler is really filled up to the max, when you open the E-valve, what will escape over the valve? Water, exactly. And this is really the whole story around. If the boiler is really filled to the max, then indeed you pump fresh cold water into that. And I said that the salt plate, of course, it's also powerful. It's 1500 watts, but anyhow runs on a little bit lower temperature, 130 degrees. So to a certain point, the salt plate is still able to evaporate. But if you constantly flush cold water into that, it has not enough energy, and even I will say from material point, it's not enough really to hold the temperature over time. And you see that is really the size of salt plate and the amount of aluminium really capturing the heat is extremely limited. So that's why maybe in the beginning it may still works good, but after 10 minutes it might be that the whole thing becomes really, and your iron board is really wet, totally wet. So there's an easy topic for the consumer, and even actually we ask him to do it really more frequently, is of course simply doing the descaling procedure. And on this iron, it's for the consumer, it's really simple. Once it is cooled down, you open this knob, and of course you let run all the water from the boiler will run out, and in that way we also flush out all the calc residues ramp up at the bottom side of the boiler. You close it, and from that moment onwards you can really start working again. And I said, you will not see it in one session. It's really a couple of sessions where you have really to make it, and step by step. Hard to say if you get every time 20 or 50 milliliters on top, but step by step it's simply growing up. So if the consumer uses the rinsing really frequently, he will definitely never see it. No way. So that's one part of the story. Yeah, thank you. The second, as I said, the air valve, we have also, it will come in the next slide, we have a testing procedure to check if the air valve is working well, yes or no. The second big issue we have really on the 9000 family was really the E-valve. The E-valve are similar like we have seen yesterday in coffee. Of course, the valve itself is you have a coil which is powered by 230 volt most probably. Once we have power on the coil, we get a magnetic field, and the magnetic field we simply move a piston in or out. So here the issue with the coil is that the coil material was really proven bad. That means if you put a multimeter on the coil and measure just the resistance, you have endless ohm. So as far as I remember, in normal case we have around 300 ohm. So to measure it, I would say to diagnose it is really done in a minute. Then you just open it, put a multimeter on it, and then you will see already that the coil is totally open. Wait a minute, that's maybe me. Okay, thank you. But as even I will say, most of the workshop, when the set has heated up and you press the steam trigger, you can also hear the valve switching. There is really a one-to-one connection, more or less. So whenever you press the trigger, you can really hear click, click of the valve. And if the coil is open, you hear maybe this click, but this one is totally missing. So it's easy to detect. For the 9240, we even make it mandatory, but only for the 9240. As it was, Singapore side was a little bit too expensive to make it mandatory for the whole 9000 series. So the 9640, as far as I remember, is really the super premium, most expensive, and there we say if the set is at workshop site, we safeguard and we give it already proactive already the valve. The valve itself has a printing on it. We will see it in the service information. There's a date code stamped in. And maybe I open the service information. Let's do it. The internet is working. Sorry, internet is not working. Philips is blocking. Give me a sec. Once again. So here it is. So actually the valve we have now on stock, also the complete stock at Flex warehouse in Łódź has been reworked, so, or at least swapped. So all the valves we have now on stock have at least a printing 1st of August 2017 or newer. Of course, if you get now a new batch from the supplier, maybe it's already printed something from 2018 on it. But if you find something here like from 2015, then indeed no discussion, replace the valve by a new one, and that's it. We have some work instruction about the valve replacement. When we have opened the device, I will also go a little bit into that. Then of course it's not just pulling out the valve. You have really to make sure that you have a proper sealing afterwards, etc. So a few points we may have to check for safety reasons. Yes. Yeah. As the eValve story was really a heavy one. So what actually is really solved so far, issues with the new valve, not that I know. So nobody complained actually about that. Yeah, boiler overfill. So here you may also see a little bit in the graphic. So there's also like a simple test. If a consumer comes to you and say, my iron is raining, then of course the easy thing what you can do is just open the knob and please capture the water in a small becker, whatever, and check the amount. If it is more than 400 milliliter, most probably we have an issue with the air valve. So it's an easy test to do. So then indeed we replace the eValve. We may inform the consumer to use, even if you fix this, to empty the boiler more frequent. As I said, so on one hand we may overfill the boiler due to the air valve story, but on the other hand we may also, or the consumer may cause a certain overfill if you constantly press this trigger. Then I said, as long as you press and as more often you press, we also pump water into the boiler. And yeah, you cannot judge how many drops or how many milliliter you have to pump in to have, I would say, a stable condition. So it might be that we may also pump 10 milliliters too much into it. So step by step, that can also cause, in addition, that we overfill the boiler. So as I said, we have some FAQs also already created for the consumer. And I said, usually you use the steam trigger when you work on the wrinkles on your clothes. Like if the clothes are already just more or less flat, then you can, just the heat of the iron is more than enough to do your ironing. Yeah. Good. Yeah, the testing procedure is simply, do we have it? Yeah, here you see it again a bit more in detail. What will happen? So in case if you have low pressure, then of course via the air valve we should soak air via this way. If somehow this way is blocked or the air valve is not working, then indeed we soak simply the water from the tank. So how to detect it, and that's also an easy way to do it, but of course you have to wait until the set has then fully cooled down. You have the set like this. Let's say we have a water up to this level. When you power off the device, put a marker of where the water line is, and usually you may use a pencil or a piece of tape. Please not a screwdriver and a heavy scratch. So you put a marker on it and then simply wait. If the valve is working well, nothing will change over here. If something is wrong in here, maybe half an hour later you will see the level go down. And then of course you have already at least confirmed that most likely here is something wrong. Either it is the valve, or it really maybe due to former repair activity, somebody route this hose in a bad way, and when you put the housing on top, it you just kink it. But this is then a bit tricky. Then at the moment that you lift it up, then of course you don't see anymore that it's kinked. So that's why we have also in the service manual, I think there's in the disassembly instruction, we have a warning that you have to route the hose somehow to the left side to prevent that when you put the housing on top, you press the hose really too tight to another hose, and then of course it gets kinked and blocked. So be careful on that. It's also, I will say, a nice reason for a repeat repair if the assembly is not done in a perfect way. Here again, this is basically the picture. You can see it here. This is clearly an assembly issue. Wrong routing of the hose, and then of course at the moment that you see it also here, heavily kinked, when the housing comes on top. Yeah. So at factory side we have warnings like that. So in the line I would say it should not happen. So but in fact we know it can easily happen at the workshop site. That's why we add actually even like instruction for assembly into the service manual, also with some warning. Then of course whenever we know it can go wrong in the assembly line, yeah, then of course there is the chance that it happened at your end, yeah, is serious the same. Yeah? If you do not know where is the bottleneck, yeah, then of course you will most probably do exact the same issue during assembly. So that's why again, please also push your technician or yourself a bit more, especially on the new service manual. We really spend time in the, we have 2 chapters most likely for garment care now. We have a disassembly instruction, so how to open the device. And on the other hand, we also have an assembly instruction. Yeah? And usually in the assembly instruction, we really try to point out, hey guys, please be careful. If you route something wrong, you will have this a negative effect on the function. Yeah. Yeah, in case the air valve is defect, then of course we can replace it. I saw already in some appliances the air valve comes now together with the pump. They even make a pump ESSI out of that. That means if you order a pump, you get it already together with the air valve. So we replace it basically in one go. But on some other device we still have it separated into 2 parts. Of course there is no consequence to replace all the time the pump. So why they actually made it for some sets as an ESSI, yeah, was also not really clear. Maybe we got really from the pump supplier, they can already deliver a pump with this functionality. It's even no longer screwed at this point. It's really all the plastic are glued together. Yeah, the same also here. What can happen? Let me see. Yeah, that can also cause an overfill if I would say the steam cannot go through. But usually then of course the user will complain, in fact no steam, like similar like when the valve is broken. So also here, most probably assembly error if you may route something completely wrong in the set. Yeah, this is again the procedure as I just mentioned. Let heat up the whole thing, make a marker on it, let cool it down, and if the level is shifting down, then indeed we have an issue with the air valve. And as I said, the easiest test is indeed to check if the consumer, if the set arrives, take the water out, capture the amount of water. If it is above 400 milliliter, you're already at least in the diagnose on the right way. Yeah, this is basically the drawing of the boiler ESSI. And please, I see actually still in claims that people are replacing the full boiler, even for this. Of course, in Philips, in warranty, we always go for lowest component whenever possible. That means, of course, if the boiler is not heating and the heating element is defect, we need to replace the boiler. I fully agree. But if I have, I will say, somehow an issue with a subcomponent which is a single spare part available, yeah, then please, we go for this. Yeah? If I have an issue with the E-valve, then of course I will not replace the complete boiler ESSI. Yeah? It's a total overkill on cost, and of course also not, I will say, the aim of the story. Yeah? So be careful on that. So replacing the valve, yeah, we will go to the service information later. Let's first continue in the topic here. A second nice issue we have, it was not really on this station, it's more on the ProVelos devices, is at the moment we have a bit issues with our pump suppliers. Now, of course, the pump, the size we have in this product is really small one. So do not compare like with the heavy pump we have in the Saeco set. So the valve body, I mean you see it actually here is a little bit the picture. The valve body is it's 5 centimeters. So what actually happened, like when we produce a set in Asia, etc. After production, first it goes there in the warehouse. Then or they put it somehow in a container, we put the container on the boat goes around the world, end up in Rotterdam, gets unpacked, then the container move to somewhere to a DC, like in Venray in Netherlands, and from there it gets dispatched then to your local dealers, whatever. Then they may still have it in the warehouse, they put it on shelf, it gets sold, and then the consumer may have it. So minimum 3 months, minimum, for the whole chain. So what happens now in these 3 months? Of course the devices are tested at factory site, but within 3 months the water, and due to the small size of the pump, the water inside of the pump disappears. Unfortunately the pump is so small and less powerful that it may not able in dry condition to soak water. So in fact you need one drop of water on the pump even to have, I would say, a good moving. So whole story of this is indeed the consumer received the product brand new, out of the box, put water in the tank. You can hear a little bit the noise from the pump, but the pump is not taking any piece of water. It's simply not powerful anymore to take it. So what can we do in that case? We call it the pump shock therapy. So where is my toolbox? So next time when you're at the doctor and you get your injection for whatever, then of course ask for it. So just a piece of hose you can find, either you cut it out from the Saeco set or from an old cannibalized set. In fact, I said we have whenever we can detach the tank, we also have the sensor. That means to activate the pump, you have to sheath a little bit the sensor. That means you put either a magnified screwdriver next to it, or just a small magnet. We have a lot of in Saeco everywhere. Just put the magnet in here, press the steam trigger, and then of course the pump will start pumping. You just connect the syringe on it, and then put really maximum a centimeter or a few milliliter is enough. It's more like the water, you can even see like the oil we need to really make the piston running again. A few drops, more than enough, and it works. The chance actually that it will happen again is very, very limited. Then of course, at consumer home, even if the consumer will go on holiday for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, really we need at least around about 3 months before an issue like that appear again. So that's actually, I would say, a simple test to vitalize the product. Really, there is absolute nothing wrong with the pump. Replacing the pump is absolute nonsense. Then of course, the next one, and it's also what we actually ask, that even with the spare part we have the same issue. The spare parts at Flex warehouse may also stay there for 6 months, whatever. So it might be you receive a complete new pump, as you may expect something is wrong with the pump. You mount it inside and surprise, surprise, this pump will exactly show the same behavior as the one before. If it is dry, then it's dry. So also here, but usually the workshop press, even without let the pump running, before they insert the pump into the set, they press some water into that. And then you assemble the pump, and then most probably it will run from the first second on. So that's why also be careful when you replace the pump. Might be there's even a defect one. If you replace the pump from Flex warehouse, it's really wise to do this small step. Then otherwise you may assemble everything just to find out the way you can go back and do the injection afterwards. It's a waste of time. That's why, I think By chance you have it, other way maybe go to the veterinary for a horse doctor. They may even have bigger sizes. So yeah, it's easy to get. So I even have, I would say, a very old one. So more from a museum. Yeah. Anyway, both works perfect in that condition. Who have already issues with the spare part? I see you already saw it.
Yeah, so not only in Steam stations but in other devices. So
Yeah.
Cycle too.
Yeah, it's the same.
In Cycle too.
Yeah.
The pump can get a bit jammed and it can push the air out after being purchased new from the store.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you just get some
at Seiko the pump is much more powerful than, as I said, this is really more a toy than a pump.
yeah, but you have to open the exit from the pump so the air can come out
Yeah.
and then it starts pushing normally.
Yeah. Okay. Good. This was this one. Check. Yeah, the pump we already discussed. What we also had in the also here in the assembly, that we have issues with the with this. And this morning at breakfast I mentioned already at least one topic. We have a new escalation. Maybe let me open again a service manual. Give me a sec. Let's go for the GC 7.5.
Kako na Zlatinu? Hoćeš mirat lampica da nema vode, a ima vode. Da ne može cijeli rezervarski.
dobro, to je problem s magnetom za spremnik.
Dobro, ima neko jednostavnije rješenje, a ne cijeli spremnik.
Pa ne možeš
Ja sam to
zatvoriti.
često ponavljala.
Ne možeš doći do magneta kad je zatvoren.
Actually, on the 7000 series we face a nice topic. This is the hose basically coming from the pump. We have a hose connect, or basically here. From here we come from the pump. We have a hose connector, basically a small pipe. Left and right you connect, and we have a ring, a plastic ring, who makes sure to really tight this size. Only this side is critical, as this is more to the pump side. This is basically then the hose who goes then to the eye-ring. So what actually happened, we saw this side, the dimension of this part has been changed. Somehow the mold ran out, and we have, I would say, at least a half millimeter was missing on material. It means if the ring is on top, the ring you can really turn. It doesn't tight anything. So in the result, of course, here we have a leaking. Usually if the set is assembled, this is somewhere at this corner in the edge, and of course the leaking goes then there. We also have some ventilation holes in the base plate, and of course the water will definitely go somehow underneath. Most probably in this area we may see then leaking at consumer side. At the moment we are still investigating how to get a new part. What we have agreed now with the Singapore team, as interim solution, we are allowed to use an Oettinger clamp from Seiko, but not the normal one. Then the normal one is 9.5 millimeter. In older Seiko set we even had a 7.5. So the 12C I can still find somewhere. We are allowed to clamp, I would say, a new an Oettinger on it. The issue with the Oettinger clamp is, let's try to more or less. So usually you crimp the clamp, you attack over here, and in best case on Seiko you really crimp it in that way that we may have somehow this shape and then like this, quite close together. So in Saeco, for this, we should not crimp that extremely hard. So at the moment we have agreed, we need to have a small gap in here of around 1.5 millimeter. Then of course we can also still work with the Oettinger clamp as available. So at the moment we are looking for, we have two issues. First of all, this was never seen as a spare part. That's issue number one.
Yes.
Then of course, even if you say I would like to have this, there's no travel C, there's no reference, there's nothing. So at the moment we have to, first of all we have to implement as a spare part, and of course we have to wait until we have, I would say, the new part available with the right dimension. Then of course we will, once this is there, for sure we come back with the service information, and then of course we continue indeed with the part as is. As interims, we may go for an Oettinger clamp. The part is available, we have a Traven C for it. You can easily link it to that, tight the clamp, but please not too hard. Take care that we have at least a small gap between the two metal ribs, around 1.5 millimeter. It's really tight enough for this position, then otherwise we may stress the plastic material too much. And similar like the pin-off boiler we have on Saeco, if you put too much pressure on the plastic, then it simply cracks and it starts leaking again. So that's why we need to be a bit careful in the when we go for. Oh, I should not paint myself. I start already? No? Thank you. Yeah. So once we have it, of course, we go back to that. But it's really something from last week, absolute fresh. But we saw already quite some NSEs in the field, where the workshop tried to describe in a free text what was missing. So, but it takes a while, but we really understood. Hey, they are looking for this. So actions are now ongoing, and let's see how we can work. Maybe I can give you the Traven C of this. If you have something to write, give me 1 second. I said I should have it somewhere. Should be this one. No. This one. Can you see it? Yeah. Over here. This is the one. Maybe I'd zoom a bit. Wait a minute. Because this is the Traven C of the 9.5. Yeah, the old one. And of course this should be then the 7.5. I put it somewhere years ago into my list of preferred parts. So nowadays it's no longer used in Saeco in our actual range. I think only very old, maybe Odea or Thalea still have it, but whatever is after that, we don't use the 7.5 anymore. But there's I think a good chance you should still have them on stock. If not, then at least for garment care at the moment we are allowed to use it. So there will also no hiccup if you see, I would say, this material booked at the moment on a garment care product. And usually we also make checks that you book, if workshop book, I would say, unknown parts to a device. In the past when we still have TV, that we may have a flat screen, a panel is booked on a garment care item. So we like that very much to see. So that's why we have some control patterns running, but of course I give already a warning on that for garment care we may see a Saeco part used. So from that side, we know it, but at least we have a solution at the moment until we have the other one back. So that's also pointing a bit into that direction. Let's go to the presentation mode. Yeah, the pump we already discussed. The next, yeah, now there was even an issue with the cable, but I think it was really an old one. It was somewhere in 2014-15. Of course, in the hose cord itself, we also route some wires. Some wires with high voltage, like the 230 volt for the sole plate, but also some low voltage line, like data or +5, just for a small PCB we may run on the basically in the handle, etc. So the issue we had in the past with that was that due to twisting the cable on consumer side, and here we still have it in perfect condition. Partly you receive it as even the fabric is completely worn out, but due to all the twisting and bending, etc., we had a critical damage in the wires, and the damage was so critical that we have, I would say, an unisolated 230 line touch an unisolated 5 volt line. Maybe you have an idea who was the winner in that game. So whatever was on the 5 volts, totally gone. Both sides. Most likely the PCB is defect, the PCB in the iron was defect, of course the hose cord per definition is defect, and of course then we have to replace really quite a lot of material on that. So this is actually solved, and I said it already a few years ago, so maybe not so critical anymore. Next issue is indeed the hose cord. With the hose cord we actually still see on the mainly in the 7000 series, a nice topic. That, yeah, this is by the way, this is the wiring topic. So this was the old cable. They even put a blind wire in it to stabilize a bit more the cable and to prevent that they totally gets twisted inside. So that was the solution, but yeah, 2014, beginning 2015, so old. Okay, this is, yeah, I think it's also an old one we can skip. Okay, let's first go one step back to the hose cord. So one of the issues we have on the 7000 series is that the consumer complained no steam. And I already said we only pump water to the hose, nothing more. So if you disconnect the hose from both sides and you try to press water, air, where was my old one? This I usually use for air. If you try to press air into the hose, really nothing. You can, if it is in this condition, you can really place an elephant on it. The piston will not move a millimeter. We even try with air pressure. We really try with water pressure from the tap, like you may have in a normal house, like 4 bar. Nothing, really, totally blocked. So this was one of the candidates. In origin, of course, all the 4 pieces belongs into one. So I start basically with this. First I cut it into 2 pieces. Then I checked this. Somewhere is one blocking. So I cut it in 2 pieces. Both sides I try to press air into that, and the result, it was totally stuck. So now you see it works fine. I cut again the 2 pieces in 2, so I have now 4 pieces, and the result, all 4 are blocked. I will take all this stuff, and then in Eindhoven we have is also medical located. They make the big X-ray and MTR stuff and so on. So I really went there with my hose and hey, guys, we need an X-ray. So we got a really nice X-ray engine. I think it was bigger than a house. Let me show you some pictures. Basically, every 5 centimeters we make a high resolution picture of the hose cord. So starting basically here at the cable side. and then step by step. You can really clearly see here. These are the wires, nicely twisted around, and this is of course the hose. I checked the pictures already at least 100 times. You can go to all of them. Absolute nothing. You see nothing. So next to that, a friend of mine is a women doctor. We tried with ultrasonic. Yeah? So usually they find babies. So whatever is organic maybe should show up. Also there, we didn't find any organic stuff. No aliens, nothing. Yeah? So we give up really at this point. So we give all the material to Singapore, say whatever you do is that. We have no idea. I keep them at home, and I would say roughly half a year later, I do again the test, try to inject. At least one was already free. Another one splashed my desk. This comes out. Maybe back to your question, if consumer may complain, he has if you do the ironing like a white shirt, and you may maybe find brown spots on it. That's what I said. It might be, and at the moment there's still the idea something. We have on the certain range we use another silicone hose material, and the idea is really there's something organic already inside, and due to the temperature of the water we wash them, it's really like it looks like a really organic, like an algae. Don't know why we don't see it on X-ray and not on ultrasonic. I have no idea about that, but also not a chemical guy. So end of the day, I find really I push and find this on my workbench there. I say, wow, nice. I think it's really an alien, something from outer space. Fact is, the issue, and that is now a little bit the tricky part for you in service, as soon as the hose is fully blocked, no issue to detect. If a consumer complains about steam performance and say, it's not working as it was working half a year ago, but it's still working. Yeah? And there we had this morning already a nice discussion. Then indeed, yeah, what can you do? Usually I would say if you have exact the same type of product, you simply do a stereo steaming test, left hand, right hand, put both sets into steam and then let them run. Yeah? And then just compare left and right if they behave the same. If so, no failure found. If one set is underperforming, or especially this one from the consumer complaint, yeah, then of course you have to go to the next step. And in that way we have not so many choices in a device like that. We also have seen already that if the pump is constantly running, that also the pump will underperform after 10-15 minutes constantly running. So that maybe could be one. The second one is, of course, we may have the Glock somehow, whatever is living inside is growing, yeah, but not overnight. So step by step, it may cause, I would say, underperforming and less steam to the iron. And of course, if you have somehow a steam test, then of course you will definitely see it will show up or in an underperformance of steam. So the big question now is indeed, what can we do in service to detect that? So usually I would say buy an X-ray for 100,000 euro, put it in your workshop, it should work. We have a proof it's not. Also some other medical device maybe not so helpful. So indeed, whenever we have an iron or whenever a consumer complains about steam power, somewhere on the iron you will find here an information how many grams, etc. this iron can produce, up to 600 grams. Yeah, but what can you do with this value? Yeah? Yes. Of course, the procedure, how this is specified, is a norm. Yeah, it's I have it on my laptop. It's a 60 or 80 page PDF file which clearly describes in a laboratory environment how to prepare the set, how to let set steam, how to measure, and then of course with a nice big formula you calculate the value, and this is basically what you see. Is it doable for workshop site? I doubt. So what are the next choices we have in that way? And in spring in Singapore we were really sitting together and say, okay, what else can we do to have, I would say, a reliable pattern and give you something on hand where you can work with. And then of course we come to this one. We do, let me move a bit, we measure the steam lengths. Let's place it now here. So what are we doing now? So what you need is either you use a black carton, you put somewhere in 10 centimeter distance, you put bars on it, or 5 if you would like to have it more accurate. Then the next level is you take your iron, we place it somehow in this position, so we should not cover all the holes. So at least on this way that you have somehow a rest, like an old iron board can help you to set this up, and then we steam. Also for 10-15 seconds. As first we heat up the set, of course. Then we steam for amount 10-15 seconds, and you repeat it. And we measure how deep the steam fly. And this at the moment we have maybe you have seen already the document we have prepared for that. I will open it now in a second. So this document I have sent some weeks ago via the R-Team email. And here it's pretty described what are we doing. Same story, same setup. Of course they also use, I will say, somehow a black towel. But I see also other workshops they use, they just paint an old carton box from whatever, washing machine, just make it black, put some bars on it, or even put two scales on it, like in best way maybe even with a size of 5 centimeters instead of 10. Put the iron at the 0 position, and then simply let it steam. And you will really see really where the main steam burst goes. Of course there's always a little bit fading steam left and right, but you can really see what I was saying, where is the main distribution of the steam. And actually we summarize already here, like for the GC96, and we put several families in here. We also use the commercial name, and sometimes if you also maybe link to a shop, maybe PC Elite will say you more than I would say GC96XX. Anyhow, for this we need to have a steam boost about 50 centimeter. Then, and of course you repeat this test, I would say at least how many times we say here?
12 readings.
Yeah. If it is now 10 or 12, I will say give it a bit up to you. It's also a little bit depend how it varies. Like if you have in one test, I would say 10 centimeter and the next one shows 60, then I would say give it at least a few more. If you repeatedly see the 60, then I think you can also stop at position 8. Yeah? It's really to say, okay, somehow in average we should have a number. And for this one is 50 centimeter, 35 for the smaller one, and GC 7000 range, most probably it is really not so powerful, 20 centimeter. We can really do a test like this, so that I also bring this towel with me. Of course the best way, but as the maximum is 50 centimeter, so if you even put a marker on your table, something like here, it's also fine. Whatever you use, it costs you, as investment, I think it's a piece of nothing. And as I said, we do actually the test already, quite quite good in Germany, France, and Benelux. There we start basically with that, and as soon as we got, I would say, really more the positive feedback from the workshop, we say, okay, now we can really test. And of course, there also find products which are already really underperforming in that. And then, of course, you have to go to somehow repair activity. Like when we talk about the 7,000 family with this hose cord, then I will say, yeah, do at least some testing over there. If it's not the hose cord, maybe the pump. In worst case, maybe even the salt plate. If it is full of limestone, then of course you can also have issues like that. That's also why we say, I think somewhere in the before we start testing here, indeed we may first do, I would say, the descaling check, or we run the descaling. Of course, here we have not such a function. Then of course we only descale by empty the boiler. But on a product like that, yeah, usually you put it on this tray, activate the calc clean, and then of course we first flush, I would say, almost the full tank through the iron with high pressure, and then of course most probably then all the holes should be open. Of course, before you start here, please have a look at the salt plate. If it is full of stains, yeah, clear that this test will not bring any result. So this is at least one step you need to do before. Good. Question to that. Concerns. Did you already try it? And I said we have it already sent around, 2 months ago approx. I can check exactly for the date. We communicated already to the field, but if I look around, most probably nobody has seen it. Yeah. Okay. We have to work on the communication.
I have a question about with the boiler assembly that you mentioned earlier about overfilling the boiler. What is the role of water sensor?
Yeah, in fact, the water sensor should detect.
Yeah, it should detect the water level.
But this question we also ask already a bit more often to how it is possible that we can still pump. But of course, the sensor will only prevent that we pump. The pump, the overfill via the airflow, the sensor has no effect.
In that case, the sensor is in there for detect a low rate of the water, not for overfill.
Yeah, exactly. That's a bit the story. So I think that's also a little bit design issue in that way, that they may only check, I would say, the sensor for, I would say, low water, but not, I would say, for the
we have a thermistor to measure temperature of the boiler itself or the steam inside. And we have two fuses for protection of overheating.
Yeah.
Some other products, some other like the valve, they measure the level of water via on the boiler. Electronics measure the differences in temperature. There is no water sensor for water level in the boiler. They measure the differences in thermistor info, and from that level they know how much water is inside the boiler or it's not inside the boiler.
Yeah, okay, it could be. Even though know if there's a patent on it, and of course we will may for sure not pay a patent for Tefal. So really something the R&D department have to. I think there are different ways maybe to get it under control. But also my question was, why do we not check, I would say, the water level sensor all the time? So whenever before I activate the pump, I should check, I would say, what is the result from the water level sensor. If the sensor still say I have enough water, yeah, then please do not start pumping. So that's why the design part here, I would say at least a question mark. So unfortunately we cannot update the software, and also for this product was not foreseen to change now the design. But indeed, I said if consumer really empty the boiler in time, and even if you may detect, I would say, a little bit raining factor, then of course you can easily fix the issue, just empty the boiler. But of course you may need then first to wait until it is cooled down.
Yeah,
If you are really in the middle of the session and you don't like to stop, yeah, then still you can release the steam trigger.
but we can prevent something like that if I know there is a sentence in a user manual that you need to descale, clean, rinse the boiler every, I don't know, 1 month. So you can prevent something like that. But not all users, very big amount of users does not read the user instructions, and they don't,
I think most of them.
most of them, yeah. Most of us.
Yeah, that's why we also like the call center is informed. We have even in addition we put FAQs into the on the website, in the help forum, etc. So at least hoping and guessing that at least then the consumer may went there and try to get somehow answers on the issue. We inform you. So, but indeed, yeah, the best case is that the consumer that the set works, I would say, such reliable that an issue will not exist at all. That's from time to time we have then to do somehow the corrective actions when the set is in the field and may see what we can still do with that. Yeah. So yeah, like back to the question from this morning. Is this now okay? Your question answers? No. What is missing?
Try with this.
Okay. You don't think it will work? Yeah, you look a bit concerned, so that's why. We can check the hose, we can check the steam lengths. No need to have, I would say, an equivalent product on hand to do, I would say, at least a parallel test. So what else or maybe not, what else can we do? So if you say, okay, it is not working, it's not working, we have to find something different. But at the moment, I think with the discussion about the steam power, this is at least something similar like say we discussed with the temperature on the Seiko. This is something you can give to the consumer. No worries about that. And of course, this is the test actually really signed by the R&D department. This is, I would say, the minimum requirement the set should deliver. So, as I said, I can give you the norm procedure, and yeah, anyhow, we will see this procedure also back. If we may quickly go to the normal steam iron, maybe show it. Let's first maybe close the PSG. Then we can still, I think we are good in time at the moment.
You should write
So what?
To write the schedule for today. The topics in the schedule for today.
Yeah, we can do.
For this year.
What? The TB? Ole, let's see what else we have in the file. This is also a little bit more in the direction of claiming. Then, of course, it's more a request from our quality people. Like whenever you work on the product, then you know for the IOR, when you write your claim, first of all you have to use, I would say, the correct iris code. That's, I would say, the beginning. And then, of course, if you have an issue somehow in the water circuit, the quality people really look like to know. Yeah, if you say I correct the routing of a hose, then of course if you put this in the claim, there's an iris code, then the quality people say, yeah, good, but if you see a water circuit on an iris, where did you do the corrective action. So that's why I also ask, maybe like we have in the iris code, end of the day there's also the position number. If you can have at least somehow add the letter on which part of the water circuit you may have do the corrective action. Not more, not less. So actually we have two drawings now also in the documentation. This is basically one for a boiler set and the other one for the ProVelo set. So please keep it in mind, if you work on a hose, please provide, I would say, the more information. And end of the day, we may have to go really back into the line and see if somehow in the line a worker is doing something bad. If you do not know which part, then of course the assembly is done, let's say, by 20 or 30 people. Yeah, to whom you need to go. Is the one who may do the connection here to here, or more in the assembly doing this part. So that's why we really need to get information, more, or say qualitative information from the field. Yeah, what is exact now the issue? Yeah, if you only say I reconnect something, yeah, hoorah, then we are not really a bit further. So that was this. Yeah, okay, this is also old. Let me skip this. Yeah, what we also have now a new functionalities called single wire. Of course, we also get now a little bit more clever irons. That means we have, of course, we have the main PCB is in here, clear. There's also a small microprocessor on it. We have a memory, etc. And meanwhile, we also get, I would say, a small PCB in the handle of the iron. So, of course, yeah, one part is to communicate like the information from the thermistor. If you may translate it first, the analog value into digital. Then, of course, the single wire is just a digital communication, like with the transmission and receiving. Here you see it, basically we have two microprocessors. One is here, they call it base, so I will even say it's maybe the master and it is the slave. And of course with the digital bus we have a communication in both ways. And here you see the principle. It's yeah, similar like maybe on a telephone line. We have a transmission and receiving, we have an interface, and in that way, that's why it's called single line. And of course then it gets again switched into the two signals, and then we have a good communication on it. The reason why we need it will come in one of the next slides. And of course we get even more cleverness now to the iron. So that's maybe one. At least here from technical point, we had once a bit issues with the connections. So that's why we also have a service information about it to correct it. Yeah. That was also one, but not a big one as far as I remember. Then optimal temp, yeah, we touched it already partly. So in fact, this iron with optimal temp, in fact, run with a lower temperature range. So if you have the old one with a temperature dialer, then indeed when you check the temperature for the sole plate can be easily 220 degrees. Whereas in products with the function optimal temp simply run in a lower level, like maximum 130 around, and of course with that you do not have issues that you damage, I would say, very sensitive material like silk or polyester. So and easy to detect. First of all, we have a logo. But of course, if you miss the dialer, then you can already say it should be optimal temp. Yeah. Yeah, we have apart from the optimal temp story, and it's also what I mentioned already yesterday, partly around the table. The moment we face a little bit issues with spare part on some products. Then in the past, I would say when you order a sole plate, you get a sole plate ESSI. So whenever we put, I would say, the name ESSI behind, it's say it's not only one part you may get, you get a really a kind of pre-assembled part. It means a sole plate SE usually contains, yeah, of course, the sole plate, the thermistor, the thermal fuse, and maybe even a few wires already hard soldered on the connectors. So what we actually see with some suppliers, that they do not deliver, I will say, the SE as we expect. They just reduce the SE, and in that way they take the thermistor out. So you receive now a new sole plate, most probably it will arrive without a thermistor. So of course now you have two things you can do. First of all, you may use the old thermistor from the original island, okay? Or we may have to request and to complain the spare part at Flex. What we actually see, and of course I also know how many complaints we got at Flex, hardly a workshop is complaining the part, just taking it as is and continue with the old thermistor. Using the old thermistor is of course a little bit tricky, especially if your sole plate has I would say, overheat and the thermal fuse blow up. Yeah, then of course there was maybe a reason for overheating. Maybe the thermistor was not delivering, I would say, the right stop. That means using the thermistor again, you run the risk that you blow up your sole plate once again. Or the thermistor was due to the heavy overheating of the sole plate, even gets also a tick back, and of course it's also not working after that. So anyhow, it's not a good idea only to replace the sole plate, or at least it's not a good idea to make use of the old. Actually, we have already corrected some of the service manuals already. That means in the new service manuals we have now a remark: in case of you order the sole plate, please also order the thermistor. So the thermistor is now available on, at Flex site as spare part. That's why, please, a remark: if you receive a sole plate without thermistor, or in the service manual is indicated that you have now to order the thermistor separately, please do so. So using the old thermistor, yeah, I would say you are a bit on risk that you have easily a bounce back. Then yeah, maybe the thermistor was indeed the origin of the problem. Yeah, I just put it in like it's a nice movie how the steam is routed inside of a sole plate. It's really impressive what with all the routings and twisters we have really to make somehow I would say even push I would say the steam to the max. A little bit also like the same approach we use for the milk photo in a Typhoon. Good. Yeah, dynamic Q sensor. Back to the story why we need, I would say, a little bit more cleverness in the product. So one of the next level now is, of course, we get a dynamic Q sensor, which is indeed nothing else than a movement sensor. You may have it in all your mobile phone. Whenever you may move either vertical, horizontal, or left and right, basically the sensor can really detect, I would say, where you are in the absolute position. So actually we use something similar also in the iron. That means whenever I move it, I can also have steam. At the moment that I stop moving, I also stop with steam. On next slide you will see how it works. So say this is our iron. So now we may move it in one direction, and that means I will have on the 3-axis view, I get a signal in here. If I bring it out, now this is not moving. This is just orientation, no movement. So if I put it just straight, I get this signal. If I put the iron in a tilt like 30, 40, 35 degree, and maybe you see already where it comes, then we may have a little bit signal on X and a bit more on Z and nothing on Y. If it is really in vertical, then we may have this pattern. So this is just for the orientation. Then even if I have a movement, that means I really do backwards, forwards, or up and down, etc. I even get, I would say, more signals on the line. So with this, of course, we can really now play with the device. I said, if it is in parking position, similarly like that, then maybe it stops steaming. So maybe you can also simulate it in the iron. If you have I would say, not a shaking hand and hold it in the same direction, you will also see it may stop. If you bring it back, it may start steaming. The same what we can also do now, and of course these irons also allow you now not only to do the ironing just on the board, we can also do the ironing similar like the hand steamer. But whenever we use it vertically, we may work with a different steam power. Yeah? So with this function, of course, there you have much more, you can work a bit more powerful, close to the user in the way how you like to use it. Yeah, this way, whatever you like to do. And of course, behind that, we can really also increase or decrease steam pressure, etc. So that's why we need, of course, up front to have a communication between the two controllers. And then, of course, hardly possible with if you have 20 analog lines maybe on the table. So that's why we, in the first level, we switched to digital, and now we get already the first feature out of it. But indeed, for service, like also the steam test, could be already interesting. And of course, yeah, if there's a movement sensor, and from time to time you have at least to trigger shortly a movement, and then you do the steam burst. Then otherwise, if you just stay here, then it may take a while before you see something. So there's also a little bit the disadvantage. The same we may have on the vacuum cleaner, on the robot, for example. Also there we have a Q sensor inside. That means it will only move or keep moving if the sensor is also giving a signal. If you have the vacuum cleaner on your workbench and you hook up the wheels, they stop half in a second. So then of course the wheels turn, the sensor is saying no movement, stop. So that's why also for the vacuum cleaner like the 8810 or 20, basically all of these have a G sensor in to test the wheels on your workbench. When you hook them up, it's not working. So anyway, you have to do the test, really put it on the floor and let it run. So same principle, so you have to know what is the side effect for testing. That's why we also add it in here. Then if you just have it on your hand and then you expect somehow steam, it will not come. Now you see again, so we have now the small electronic is in there. Yeah, descaling PSG, I think we already talked about it. What is also interesting in that way is how often and how frequent the consumer may get the alarm for descaling. And here we still have quite some discussion with the marketing, with the R&D department. Then of course, at least also my experience, when I have an iron, usually this is on the rest on my iron board. I may stay in this position and doing this. Can I see the LED at this position? Most probably not. Then my arm is there, even I would say already in the blind spot. So having somehow something blinking here in soft blue light is not right. Right. Next to that we have some devices where we have a buzzer in the handle, and the opening that the sound can go out is also here. You put your hand around it, so what kind of sound should now come to this part? So there's quite some discussion about the design and what can we do to make it really, not we in service can't do anything on that. It's really now a little bit more at the design side, really to think about twice. We need something which is really clearly visible for the consumer. Maybe we put a big horn inside and that maybe will something that the consumer will recognize. A small beep on a soft blue blinking LED will not work. And I know even from home, like when my wife may finish, so the wall socket is already there. So before you may make a step back, the cable is already out of the wall. So then of course there is nothing anymore to see. So actually what we have, and just to give you an idea about the alarms we may have, of course when we take now the GC96, so in steam mode and echo, I would say the reminder for descaling will happen every 300 minutes. 300 minutes is already, I would say, it's a very sportive ironing session if you do it for 5 hours. Maybe then in 5 hours you will get, after 5 hours, you may get the next alarm. Okay, so in normal mode it's 150 minutes. It's still more than it's 2.5 hours. Are you do the ironing for 2.5 hours?
No.
Yes.
What?
We can iron this.
Okay. Now, but you see, there's already, the timing is already critical. Of course, the reminder will come again, no issue on that, but it really takes quite a long time before you may see it again, or may not see if you finish before and you pull the cord again. And then, of course, it starts again with this. Then, of course, we have a sound and light, but also here already, I give already remarks on that. So in best case, of course, is what will happen when the descaling reminder is on. Appliance stop working. And yes, that will happen. But unfortunately, I would say most of these devices end up in service with this. Then, of course, the consumer saying, my iron is not working anymore. The link between this and that he may or she can easily do an action is not there. That's why I also like the NFF rate we may measure on iron is really sky high. So, and that's why also really in best case the consumer contact the contact center and they will figure it out together with the consumer and fix it. A set with an NFF at your end, sorry, I know you like to get the money, but your task should be the repair and not sorting out NFF cases. So that's why there's at the moment quite some attention on it to make, I would say, the alarm more and easier visible for the consumer and also in a way what to do in case of. Okay, that was the PSG stuff. Anyhow, we can open it. That's why we have the sets over here. What I like to give you at least shortly, back to the question about the measurement. Yeah, sorry to correct. The norm how to measure is 140 pages. So, yeah, I said it's not from our side. I said a lot of. If somebody is really interested, furthermore you can find it on the web. It's really hardcore. In a way how to assemble, how to fix. It's nonsense for a workshop. Sorry to say, it will never fly like this. I said when the set gets specified and all the logos, CE, whatever, then of course they will apply it really like this. But this is nothing you can do on during the normal repair. So it's interesting to read. So they do quite a lot of stuff is behind that. But for our daily work, it doesn't help at all. What I like to show you, at least what we do in the steamers. No, I think in the DTS. DTS, we try to do it a little slightly different actually, but this is just a normal steam iron. To be honest, we also do already the same test with a set like this. In fact, you fill the boiler or the tank with water. Then, of course, you put the whole iron on a scale. You check what is the weight of the product. Let's say we have 1,500 grams at status 0. Then you do some loops of steaming, really constant steaming, and after 10 minutes you measure again, and you may have 1,300 grams. That means we have around 200 grams in 10 minutes. And then, of course, with a formula, you can also calculate something out of it. Point up here. So at the moment we work still with the team for the DTS, and I think the pictures you have this morning, it was a GC49 or 45. 4.
04.
04. Okay. In fact, we would like to have something similar we do actually for this. We also like to have for this. So working with a scale, and if the test is only taking 3-5 minutes, and we come back with a table and say, okay, in case you have a GC 4900 series, you should have after 10 minutes constant steaming or 3 minutes constant steaming, a delta in the weight of, 60 grams. If this is then, I will say, in the window, set pass the test. So this, at the moment, we are working on that. We also do basically the same approach with a set like this. The issue is already, the first issue we already find, like in principle you can use a kitchen scale. This kitchen scale go from, basically the accuracy is 1 gram, more than enough for our test. But the issue is most of them stop at 5 kilograms. So this is definitely more than 5. Even when actually we, or maybe it's 4,500 already. So that means to have the first measure, we can only put, I would say, 150 or 200 milliliter water on top. We need to be below the 5, then otherwise our scale will say overload. Of course, if you really take a bit more money in your hand, then of course a kitchen scale you can buy, I think, 10-20 euro already at the internet. If you would like to have like a scale, like a body scale, but then of course the accuracy is no longer on the grams, it's maybe on kilos or half kilo or 0.1. So to have maybe a scale working up to 10 kilo in an accuracy of 1 gram, you will really see on the web that the price of this go up. So that's why I would say the 5 kilogram at the moment is really a little bit the bottleneck on the to do a test like that for this iron. Anyhow, at SB in France, we went to the parcel area when they ship out the product. Then of course they also have a nice scale which is able to deliver this. And at the end of the day, we also do the steaming test with this iron, with an iron like that. That means we check the weight, let's say 5,000 grams, and then of course we even put a clamp on the steam trigger, and then we park the iron for 10 minutes, and we keep it constantly steaming, and we release, and we repeat the test, in fact, 3 times, and 3 times we have more or less the same delta. But at the moment we skip it a bit. Preferred scenario at the moment for this is definitely this one. Then it really needs minimum half an hour to test it. And of course you really have to support it left and right a bit. So half an hour for a test, that's it. We also have to respect the time you may need to spend on the product. If I ask you to do something for half an hour and you say, guys, this is not fitting with the tariff. So there's always a little bit the twist we have to see. What can we ask and what not. what is still helpful for you and maybe what not. Any other good idea, please welcome. So always in the sessions like that. If somebody has already a good procedure, maybe even from another brand, like maybe TIFF, I'll find already, I will say something perfect we can slightly copy, would be great, but actually in this corner is really silent. No?
For to measure grams per minute or per hour, for example, the amount of the steam, it's no universal answer for that. No universal measure.
Yeah, but then of course we are on the document I showed before. 114 pages, really very hard testing procedures, and of course we really have to follow that.
Laboratory environment and something like
that. So yeah, I said, give it at the moment for the irons. I think we will definitely go for this, and we come back. Hopefully still this year with a small table, at least talking to the GC 4000 range, whatever we have on the DTS. And I said will be similar like what we do in a communication now with this one. Just a small table. You just put the families underneath with some, I would say, values. Don't know if this should be 60 or 70 gram. That we will figure out, and then we have at least something where we can work with. Good. What else do I have on garment care? I think lunch we will have again at 12.
Yes.
So what we can do, I get a bit time to clean up my desk. So I would say if somebody would like to open the set, then I will empty the desk in here, and then we can do it. Others may go for a cigarette or for coffee. So we use then the time a bit flexible, whatever you like. So who have not seen yet an iron from inside? Let me say this one. GC96. Everybody has already seen it, worked on it? Come on, guys. Where are your hands? Nobody was working so far on the garment care product? Is this the...
No, we've seen it from the side, yeah.
So,
Not worked or worked on it?
Okay.
Now the question was if everybody saw how it looks on the inside, so everybody worked on...
Yeah.
We saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, for you,
clear.
no need to ask anymore. Yeah, okay. But the others also, you are really familiar with the set? Good. Good. Then I will say, I said we can open it. Otherwise, I will say let's make a break. Then I can clean up the desk, and then of course we still have a few small topics. And then of course, at the moment we are still on schedule.
Okay.
Good.
I suppose we will not open it, yeah?
That was a little bit my also my takeaway.
Huh?
Can we dismantle it? Is this service technician proof?
Okay, let me.
I have to return this, so don't lose any.
Okay, let's.
Light it
I will
up.
say first,
This goes
if
like
you would
this.
like to open this, yeah, you really like to open it, really, no issue. So, or you're just kidding.
No, okay. Yeah.
Okay, then I will say let's pack at least, we put this one back, then we have a bit more space in here.
This one's over there.
I think one box I put here.
Možemo da računaju.
With my laptop for the moment. Also belongs to this. Yeah, maybe we pack this to the bench over there, then we'll can do already something.
Čini mi se da ima jedna finalna slika, tamo šarp. Jer bi kad bi otvoriš, onda se on unutra
To be on shop, thank you.
FC,
Ready for the
7
customer or
8.
just simply,
I don't know.
you don't know.
Ima tam možda
Doesn't matter.
On je upravo, ajde,
I think this one was
bude
sealed,
mušku
right?
ženu i pokazat ćeš mu
No,
točno
this was sealed. It was a sealed box. This one.
Yeah, this one is
Brand new.
simple. Yeah, I was brand new, so
cijeli spodnji rad.
We need to pack
Ja sam
nicely.
to sve promijenio, jednostavno za ovaj stari dijelove.
good. I will
Za
step
dijelove
out for a
sam
minute.
to sredio i to to.
Tools are here.
Mi dobijem
Ti pakiraj, ja ne mogu raspraviti, mene ovo više zanima.
Meni su dva.
Ma jes.
takvi
informacije,
rješavamo baš novo, dole interneta i nije... Da. Imamo oni poklopac za svijet.
Dodane, ovaj cijeli
Da,
gornji
da,
je
da,
kao
da, 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 kao da.
Ali stavi i onda krivo se stavi. How not to do it.
A vidi svoje one lapce.
Da, eto. Spodnji možete se dobije, gornji ne.
Later on you will open me at the service to find some information or something. But I have to check because they said the patch on the 708 is not legible.
Evo, još uvijek smo live.
Ha?
Još uvijek smo live. Cijeli svijet vidi kako ja
Pa
raspravljam.
uopšte nije kode da bi mogli da...
Nema bilo je djelo.
Za spodnji da, onda je došao novi nova šema.
Znači ide nekak.
Onda je kao je bilo, zato sam ovo novo šema potrebno volim.
Provjeriti za ovo.
Da, pa da rešimo problem.
To mora biti. Da.
Ne bi bilo loše.
Doesn't fit.
Always happens like this, you know.
Once it goes out, we never get it back in.
A,
Ti znaš.
da.
Evo, uživaj. Good luck.
A, nova je bila. Brand new phone.
Moraš još tu zakačiti. To.
Never more scalpel.
You need something?
I need the cross screwdriver. I
We don't have
didn't
it.
find it in the bag.
We had yesterday. Then let's wait for him. Because I know for sure he had one. But if not, we don't.
No,
Ah, you need the okay.
the cross one. 4, dobro. Halo? Dobar dan, imam propušteni poziv s ovog broja. Ali ja sam u Rumunjskoj, tako da moramo biti brzi kaj god da je bilo. Da, sigurno ne, pomaknuli su me. Je, da, double sam, znači na mail smo dobili znači, informaciju da će na dijelovi biti isporučeni znači, krajem ovog tjedna. Da li će to biti četvrtak ili petak, nisam siguran. Tako da se mi svakako vidimo, ja ću doći do vas zamijeniti to u ponedjeljak ili utorak najkasnije, sljedeći tjedan. Križatelj, ja sam imao trebali seminar biti sljedeći tjedan, ali su nam ga pomaknuli za tjedan ranije, zato nisam ni u Zagrebu od ponedjeljka, ne? Bumo se dogovorili termin kad dođem k vama jer uopće ne znam di mi je glava, di mi je rep dok se ne vratimo u Zagreb, tako da je dosta teško za reći. A mi se vidimo sljedeći tjedan. Može, hvala, bok bok.
was guessing the guys are disassembling the set. They stop halfway.
It's disassembled.
Not really, yeah.
No, it's not assembled because I don't have a cross screwdriver.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So when
There.
Yeah, we only have
we have to abort.
No, it's not from us. This is the tools we got from downstairs. So.
But I believe everybody saw this eye to eye, so
I saw but didn't disassemble.
you didn't assemble. So
But
do we
so
have
Can
time
still
for?
not kick the cross out of with this? Was a little bit misuse.
No,
Ah,
because it's smaller. It's PH1, I think. Or
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sometimes I bring a small big box with me, but this time I don't. No.
Okay. I have a question about coffee machines. Yesterday you talked about Celsius with an air flow valve.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried in research to force induct air into, like a small blower or something like that?
Not that I know, but of
Mhm.
course.
That's a really tricky one to think about, because if normally aspirated like in an engines, normally aspirated engine have this amount of power, and a turbocharged or something like that has a lot of more air, more bubbles, as
Okay.
you say.
Yeah.
So that's a matter we can.
Yeah, at least we can check. Yeah, I really have. Maybe I will make a note
Somewhere.
somewhere on the mobile.
Yeah,
But I
that's,
think, of course, we cannot do that too much. Then, of course, then we have always again the issue that, and we of course we had already issues like on Australia and well, basically on all the Carafe product that we have too much splashing.
yeah, of course.
So if we put, I would say, 2 bars on it, that could be
It could be an issue.
maybe a bit too much. But
I have some experiments with that source. We service Bosch and Siemens appliances in our service, so we had I think that was Siemens coffee machine, and it has a mechanical valve, and at some point when it's cooking, it's making cappuccino or something like that, the mechanical valve is turned on to air induction part. So the atmospheric air comes into the valve and it's pushed towards the carafe. And we had an issue with no froth, no something like that, and we inducted with this tool, the air inside. And the froth was perfect. You can, when the cappuccino was over, you can put 3 spoons of sugar on top, and nothing fell inside of coffee.
Okay.
So it's
Just make some notes actually. So I use passive air to build stronger foam.
Is it possible, je li moguće fizički to da se postavi tako?
Zašto ne? Zašto ne?
Aha. Ima prostora, vjerojatno.
Ima prostora, ima svega.
To je odlično.
So I think that issue with space inside the appliance should not be actually an issue, because you can put small turbine that will work on a DC motor a little bit. So it's not needs.
A couple of things, like you can work with a small piston, and of course we do not talk about a 100 CCM of air. So I made it also. Next time I have a call with the Italian team, maybe next week Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, or in 2 weeks from now. I will just put it in the on the agenda. So that's.
Ne, zapravo Ne, jer možeš gurat, zrak ne mreš gurat koji je pod pritiskom. Teško ga je gurat koji je pod pritiskom. You can put something like, for example, Roventa has professional line of hair irons. And they have small pump. It's just like a steam station, steam pod. You actually probably saw it. It's called steam pod. And they have a base, like the steam station. They have a reservoir with water and have a hose to the hair clip.
Okay.
And when you press the hair clip, it's small pump, just like a flow meter.
Yeah.
It's have a small DC motor on it, and it rotates, I don't know, 20 rotations per minute. And it's small amount, the hose is very thin, and a small amount of water simply drops on a hair clip, and you have a steam on hair. So
Okay.
it's better for hair, better for, I don't know,
Yeah.
for straightening and stuff like that. You can use that engine to push air.
Okay.
It's small, it's size of a flow meter, and it has plus and minus on that.
Okay.
5 volt
Yeah.
operational, and it's great. So when you use something like that if we can use something like that in, I don't know, coffee machine,
Yeah.
there we go around the issue of not having right amount of air
Yeah.
at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I think anyhow that we get maybe a bit more pressure on the flow, like as shown also yesterday in the concept of the carafe, where first we have the vacuum part where we soak the milk.
Yeah.
Then of course it goes to the pipe. At the
The
moment that you
Victorian-
have already,
Victorian
if
effect.
you already at the moment that you may even reduce the size, you increase the speed.
Yeah,
most
of course.
probably. Yeah. So, but anyhow, yeah, I make a note. So let's see. At least I have never seen something like that in the IND in Gatsu, that they try to do somehow with I would say compressor booster to increase, I would say, the amount of air into that.
Yeah, I stepped on it by an accident. By an accident, but the end result is very good. It's very interesting. It's
Okay.
very thinkful, thoughtful. I don't know.
No.
See if we can do something like that in future development.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Not, for sure, not on the actual one, but yeah, why not on the future one? But to be honest, I really have no idea if there was once already on the radar of the IND side, and maybe it was. And then they say the cost was.
Okay, the cost is.
Then I said every single component is really under discussion on in the project like that.
Yeah.
Although before you get something on top, you need to have, I would say, really good selling arguments that it really gives somehow money back. Otherwise,
Yesterday we talked about issues with the packaging.
Yeah.
It's cardboard.
Yeah.
And you, because of final cost of the product,
Yeah.
this
Yeah, that's something that is really, a very interesting discussion. Okay, anyway, I think we, as we do not get across, I will say we
Should I go ask for one?
is there still somebody downstairs? Was Marian still there, or?
I will call him.
So we need screwdriver in a cross size,
Okay.
and maybe.
And what else?
I think
That's it.
nothing else.
That's it.
So step by step we get a full set of tools here.
Trebuiеше mi o șurubență cruce. De unde nu se ia.
Oh, craving ice
Huh?
shaver. Yeah.
Nu te aud.
My towel.
Ah, bine, hai. Mersi. Pa, pa.
But it's that's basically a great idea. You can have in workstation glued to print
Yeah,
all
yeah.
in black. You can have it
I mean,
printed.
like if you have already something,
Yeah.
this is like the ending of your desk.
You can have
Of course, the color here is not good. Then of course to detect the steam, you need something dark to have a contrast. But that's why if you just put something, I will say black carton next to it with double-sided tape, and then you put the stripes on it, then you have it already.
You can have
So it's really set up in a
minutes and at no cost.
yeah, and that's also what I really like. Not always coming along and say you need to have this or that tool for X €100. This is most probably something everybody can easily build on his. And by chance you have already everything there, like tape you have, maybe a carton you have. So
You have everything on
Yeah.
site, and that's easily 2 minutes of a job, and then the result is great.
No, that's actually the workshop. The feedback so far we got really from the big ones is really positive on that. It gives really you something you can work further with.
But you need it's no issue to have. How can I say? It's no issue to measure how much steam in meters or centimeters you have. The trouble is the info how much steam it's okay for the plants. We don't have that feedback information from Philips or something, or I don't know, Tefal or anybody. So we talked about that grams per minute, 10 minutes. It's easy to measure, but we don't know what is the value for a baseline, for the great one, for the.
For example, if we somehow go like this, in future service manual, if this will be, I will say, somehow the goal, in a future service manual, we will have directly in the list of specification, we will indicate like if you do a test according to this procedure, and the set is free of limestone, blah blah blah. So a few things we need to check, and not older and older than I would say 2 years. Then also like with the steam length, of course over time there will be a little bit declining performance. But still, even in 2 years warranty, it should deliver this. So this
Plus
is
minus 5 centimeters, for example.
So of course, if we go for this in future, we will have this kind of specification will be on the first page, or maybe in the same page where we do the measure of the sole plate. It doesn't matter. So somewhere there it will be implemented, of course, to be future-proof. For the beginning, like we will do something similar like here. We create a service information which is then valid for backwards products, and I will say for whatever comes soon newer, then also there we would like to see it already in the service manual, or we have at least to update then this document. Maybe the next family will have 27 centimeter or 60 centimeter or whatever. So we have always a little the issue we need somehow a communication. For all the products we have in the last 3, 4, 5 years, preventing that we have to touch every service manual. Then it's a hell of a job. Then of course we have hundreds of thousands CTMs. If you have to edit and render all the PDFs just for one sentence, that makes no sense. A person is booked for more than a month with that. That's why we prefer a service information for the older one, and for the new one, of course, it will end up in the service manual. You still like to open it?
Yeah,
For the
sure.
next break, or?
Do we have time?
I think we have 5-10 minutes. We can still we can use. Okay, I will give it to you. Maybe in the meantime, question about where did you measure the temperature on the sole plate? Directly on the handle? Maybe here at the bottom?
No.
Tip?
No, in the
Left?
middle.
Right?
Like
In
this,
the middle.
like this.
Here.
Okay, good. When do you start measuring the temperature?
After 2 minutes. After 2 minutes.
I will say give it 2 minutes more. What is the reason behind? Of course, the sole plate we power just usually via relay. It's not a kind of full spike modulated signal we give to that. That means we have only an on-off scenario for a sole plate. If you have now, I will say, let's say this is my timeline, and here I have somehow my temperature in Celsius. And let's say this should be my target.
Okay.
130 degrees, whatever. So what will happen basically when you heat up your iron, of course we really put maximum power, 230 volts to the iron, and then of course we will most likely see this. Then of course the thermistor will say, hooray, stop. Then of course we switch the power off and the set fall back. Again, on, off, on, off, on, off. This is, I will say, a typical pattern we may see in the heating up phase. 3 to 5 I will minimum give. What will happen, and what I said already in the beginning, like you have to check the temperature of the sole plate before you release the product. Worst case, you do your measure here. Then you stop immediately repair, it's totally overheating. Then maybe here we have 180 already. We had actually a workshop who returned spare parts to Flex as all the sole plates are out of spec. So that was basically the story behind. Then of course they measured most likely 1 minute after with infrared 180 degree sole plate defect, take the next one. 180 degree. I think in the workshop they ramped up 60 sole plates, and they were saying, hey, we have a specification issue. Yeah, we test all the sole plates, they are pretty okay. The only thing we have to check, how did they measure? So that's why please be careful when you measure. I will say at least 3 to 5 minutes, maybe a bit more. At least you have to wait until the heating LED, usually it blinks in the warm-up time, that it is seriously off. So be careful here that you do not hit one of the mountains. Good. Yeah, we have now the set is open. Thank you. Yeah, I have seen it already more than once. Of course, this is the nice E-valve we have. How did you replace the E-valve? If you have to do it.
You have to remove the water level sensor to remove it completely.
Yeah. Indeed, he's right. Before you can remove the E-valve itself, then of course you have to turn it around, out. At the moment that you start turning it, it will hit the water level sensor. So that means first you have to turn out the water level sensor, then you can turn out the E-valve. And of course in the way back you do it in reverse order. What else do you need to do?
Be very careful. Be very careful, the water level sensor likes to break. If you don't...
Okay, what else?
Disconnect the wires and hose.
Yeah, okay, that helps, that also helps, but still not there. So in the assembly...
Wait for it to cool down. Wait for it to cool down. Maybe.
Okay, I really miss one important thing. Of course...
Reseal it. Reseal it.
The liquid seal, indeed. So before you turn in the new valve, you have to put, I would say, a drop of Loctite on it, and not, please also check whatever you have in your workshop. The Loctite must be at least specified up to 160 degree. There are also, you get also Loctite already just basically just to fix a screw. The specification is less than 40-50 degrees, so it's totally nonsense for a set like that. So you need to have at least a liquid sealing, and as I said, it should not. There's no need to buy Loctite, so it's quite expensive stuff. If you have something else in the market, you need to make sure it has at least specified up to 160 degree. Otherwise, you can also left it. Then it makes no sense. It's absolutely mandatory to have it. So if you turn back the valve without, then of course you do already heavily wrong. We need one drop on the valve, and of course there should be also a drop later on when you turn back the water level sensor. Yeah. We also have seen already some, I would say, clever guys. They say, okay, it's only the coil, I will remove the coil. Okay. What are they doing basically? They use a wrench, turn the valve around 20-30 degrees in this direction. And of course, if you, at the moment, if you open the screw over here, you can still not remove the solenoid valve from the body. So you need to move to turn at least the valve 20-30 degrees in this direction. Then you can remove the solenoid. Then you take a new spare part, you disassemble the part, only taking the solenoid coil from it, and you bring it back. And then of course you turn the whole topic back. What is wrong on this scenario?
Sealing.
Exactly. Now, at the moment that you turn it only 5 degrees or even 1 degree, you break the sealing. Yeah? And then it doesn't matter if you turn it, I would say, 20 degrees, 3 times 360 degrees, whatever. At the moment that you touch it and turn, you break the seal. And if you break the seal, you have to make sure that you have, I would say, a new one on it. And then, of course, as it is a liquid material, yeah, you have to put, I would say, a drop on it. Then you turn it in, it will dry out, and then it, of course, is sealed again. Yeah? So please back, as I said, we have really seen some workshops only replacing the coil. It's really not a good idea. And as you have anyhow to make sure that the sealing is back, yeah, then of course you can also replace the full valve. Then of course, still we talk about an iron, still we talk about limestone. So if you have limestone already visible in the boiler, and usually if you just open this and with a pocket light you give a bit light into the boiler, you can really see what is the limestone condition on the set. If the boiler is already full of limestone, yeah, then you can be sure that also the valve is affected by limestone. So if we have already, I would say, a brand new valve in our hand, why only using, I would say, half of the component? This makes no sense. Yeah? So for that reason, we really say it's in principle it's forbidden only to replace the coil. At the end of the day, you will claim us the full part.
Lazy technicians. Lazy technicians.
Could be. Yeah. Now, indeed, be careful on that. When we replace the valve, first the water level sensor, then the complete valve out, and in reverse order we bring it back with a drop of Loctite or whatever is available in your market. And then of course we have done, I would say, the proper repair. Everything in between, yeah, sorry to say, is really yeah, a little bit ineffective. Then, as I said, you still run the risk that the valve is still somehow damaged or at least also affected with limestone. To get the set back for this, yeah, it's totally not necessary. Yeah, of course, one of the things we already said. So one of the hose, and you may see it. This is the one basically going to the air valve. So you need really to be careful when you mount it back. That, of course, the routing of the hose is going in the right way. I think it was connected on top. Here we have the pump. The air valve is quite close to that, and of course then the hose is connected over here. I think usually the routing was now straight from the side. Huh? What else to say on the product? Yeah, we don't have that much. Of course, whenever we see that the cable is damaged, then of course safety, we need to replace. We can have a lot of discussion about who is now the owner of the defect. If it is a consumer misuse.
Do you mind if I take this? It's in the camera.
Ah, okay, yeah. Sorry. If it is a consumer misuse or not, then sometimes, yeah, just if the stem is somehow, I would say, in a bad corner, and the iron is doing constantly this over a table or whatever iron board which has maybe plastic flaps left and right, then it can easily happen that this gets defect. Before you release a product to the consumer, you have to take care that, of course, the live part are safe. So most of the people may look at this cable and say, okay, it's okay. Here we also have 230 volts. There is not really a big difference between these two, at least not on the safety side. So also here, please again, if you really see that the wires are clearly visible and may even already blank, please do not give it to the consumer. End of the day, and to be honest, end of the day you have an issue. I will not have that issue. We as Philips may have an issue that we have authorized workshop like you, but end of the day, like the discussion with the consumer or maybe with the law is absolutely up to you. Then you are the expert and you are most probably the last one who will have it on hand. So also here, please again, a warning. I saw already when we do an unboxing at workshop site, we find a lot of products, I would say, where at least this cable already, I would say, a big question mark. So also here again a bit as a warning.
I have a question about the steam hose. In our warranties, you have a customer that doesn't want to pay exchange of the hose.
Yeah. Okay.
Legally. What about?
Yeah, we had already the same discussion just before. Like under what condition we are allowed to give the consumer the sandbag. We have at the moment an escalation also in Germany, and I'm in contact with the organization, and we also invite, I would say, a law in that way. And of course, he is saying the consumer is owner of the product. That's fact. If the consumer would like to have his product back in the same status as he give it to you, you have to deliver it back. We are not allowed, and in the past we simply do it, when we have a case where we see, okay, it's heavily damaged and seriously risk for fire, for hurting people, we just cut, but of course he gets still this one back, but this even, I would say, even we make it more worse. I come to that in a minute. So we cut somehow the cable somewhere, put everything in the box and give it back to the consumer. So legally, we are not allowed to make, I would say, any damage on the product. So end of the day, we return the product to the consumer with a letter, give a clear warning that he legally or there is a safety risk for himself or people in his household, whatever, nearby, if he may operate the set. We give a signature on it, and we put this paper in the binder, and that's it. Or you scan it and put it somehow back. What will happen if you cut this? If you give it, I would say, two pieces, if you give two pieces back to the consumer.
He's gonna try and fix it.
Huh?
He's gonna try and fix it.
We have a neighbor who is an electrician, simply.
Yeah, let's say now a child finds a nice box and say, wow, beautiful. Yeah? And put this one in the wall socket. There's the risk. And then it doesn't matter if we cut here or we cut here. You give something apart. If this comes in hand of children, whatever, then we are
Screwed again.
So that's why it's even not a good idea to cut. Or if we cut it, then of course we should not give it to the consumer and we throw it away. But then we do not give, I would say, the full product back from him. Then of course he pays money for it. He is the owner of every single part. So as I said, nicely that we have now already the third question today. Indeed, the best way is we clearly inform the consumer about the risk. He has to give a signature underneath, and whatever he is do afterward with the set, then we can say, okay, we have absolute proof that he was informed. I was even going one step further, but the law said we should not do it. I was even saying you are not allowed to sell your product next time on eBay without giving, I would say, the warning, or if you sell, you have to give even the warning to the next owner. But then the law also say we have no control on that. So end of the day, only the consumer have to give the owner have to give a signature on it that he really understands the risk, and he should not use the set anymore to prevent any hurts of people or his own. So that's legally, I think, the only thing what you can do in such a case.
And in warranty, can we claim damages on the hose like you described earlier? Or can we claim
Actually, like in the countries,
exchange of the
in the countries we have really a little bit different approach. Let's say if you clearly see it's at a very prominent site, most probably the first 50 centimeter, clearly showing that it was constantly scratching about a hard surface, we can even ask for out of warranty and say, okay, it's done. If you may see something similar in that corner, then of course usually this is not moving that much, then, or somewhere in the middle, then maybe it's better to decide, okay, before we have a discussion and we have a safety issue somehow, it's maybe better we just say, okay, do it. But if it is a clear sign of misuse, or like I said yesterday, a hamster is biting into the cable 100 times, yeah, then of course it's clearly sign, okay, give it an invoice to the consumer, and it must be repaired. But it's not always black and white, I know. Good. What else? Time to go? No.
Time to eat. 5 more minutes, so.
Okay, then
I'm here if you-
let's do a quick one. Who knows what a crimp connector is?
Crimp?
Crimp.
Crimples.
Huh? Might I give it first a round? Let's say, who knows what it is? And who is using it already?
I use it.
Okay?
I have a normal pool, just like that one. But it's red.
Okay?
It's usually for safety reasons.
So hands up, who is using this kind of, have already used them in repair? Actually, we have them in garniture, we have them for air fryer, or some kitchen appliances are using them. So really, just your hands, who is using, have already used this tool? Only 4 of you? Okay. Okay, next question. If you have to crimp, you have of course different options. First of all, you put the cable in, and then you place it on the desk, and you use a hammer and push it down. Option 1. Option 2, you need a very professional tool like from Suzuki, and you just crimp it. Option 3, you have this accurate tool, and you crimp it with this way. What are you using? This one?
Slightly different shape, but that one.
Okay, good. Not good. This is absolutely not allowed. In the same way, you can also use this, or you can also use a hammer. So, if you talk about crimping,
Too much pressure?
no, it's no control at all. That's and of course too thin. We only, I would say, crimp. I would say in that case roughly 2 millimeters. Let me go back to my. This is a crimping tool, a ratchet crimping tool. So you need to have to pressure until it releases. You cannot release further. So. Or you have to remove use the exit switch. Once it opens, then of course we have a crimping. We crimp almost on 6-7 millimeter the whole thing. So when we talk about crimping, Then we talk about this. So I will also put a small presentation on the screen. Also, this is usually like Amazon, 20 euro around. So again, we do not talk about rocket science. Okay, let me first.
Bila je.
What about securing the connection before putting it inside with soldering?
I come to that. 1 minute. Okay. As I said, so when we talk about crimping, then indeed, first of all, if we have already crimp used in a device, like this is now an air fryer. Of course, you have two ways how to remove the crimp. Of course, you can just cut it off, but then of course the issue is, and as I said, every cent in the production counts. That means at the moment that you cut it, you make the cable shorter. End of the day, you may have the issue. Let's say these are now my two cables, and even if they will not come together. So that's why the best way is to open a crimp. You can really see how it is crimped in a way. You simply make, maybe not this one, this is really bad. You give a counter pressure from the other side, and then you can open it. And you can pull out the cable, that's it. In China, I always find a nice guy who was keeping the old one. Yeah, you see already. I was not so amused to see that. Then of course he was really recycling the crimps. Of course this is also mega worst case. So opening is, I definitely would like to go for this. Then you keep the cable in the right size. Then of course, I would say usually if you have to strip a cable, I learned it really with this one. And we get, when I learned it at my technical school, the teacher was really looking. If there was one single hair cut it, you completely fail. No discussion. You have to do it 100 times, and everything he checked. And one hair was missing on 0 points. That's it. Meanwhile, I would say you can have a wire stripper. I think I also bring my old one with me. Let me check. I think it should be in. Yeah, that is. Several brands, BBC, Yokari, etc. Click, click, and then of course you can really strap the wire without damaging any single hair. That's the first important thing. And if you remove some of the hairs, you reduce the size of the wire. End of the day, we would like to have, I would say, several amps going through it. If the cable was in origin 1.5 square millimeter, and after wire stripping you make a 1 millimeter out of it, then of course we have an issue. Then sooner or later the current cannot go through. That means at this point we will definitely see an overheating. So when we, like for the strips we have actually in use, usually we strap the cable around 13 to 60 millimeter. That's part one. Then we twist them, but not, if you see here, maybe it's we twisted basically around 2.5 loops or 3 loops. I saw already people twisting the cable. You have really, it looks like 20 loops, whatever. Of course, then you also stress the wire to the max. It's, in fact, they only have to fit for ½ minute before you put the cap on it and you crimp it. So of course the next step is indeed to put the cap on it. Please take care that you catch everything. Then of course that's why I also give still there? Oh, yeah, there it is. If you may see this one, then of course if this finally touch the housing of a device, like an air fryer, we have a nice metal cover on top of that where all the cables are on top. If you have a situation like that, yeah, then it's clear what will happen. In worst case, we have to face on the housing, so seriously risk for the consumer. So that's why also like the next check indeed should be a safety check. That I would say we have a good conductive earth wire, etc. But it's not yet part of this topic. But yeah, please take care. It is in. In addition, and that really depends on the supplier or on the manufacturer of the set. Sometimes you may even see that they put, I would say, a tie wrap around. If it is used in the application, you need to add again a tie wrap on it. So please do not cut and forget. If it is somehow required in the application, then indeed we have also to make the same. The good thing here is, of course, we do not have, I would say, a limit on the tie wraps. So most probably here you can use the one from Obi or from Hornbach, and then it's done. Yeah. And I said, if you have a ratchet tool, and basically important here is, of course, we have a tool who have maybe a special shape. I will show in the next slide. Then of course this ratchet tool, you can have, there are at least six or eight different styles available in the market. What will happen if it goes wrong? You see here it's a Garmin Care product, a steam iron, a simple one. Of course, due to high power consumption, you get a sparkling basically inside. Sooner or later, the whole piece, it's really damn hot and melt really to the housing. So we have another picture, but I was not allowed to edit anymore into the presentation, and we are not allowed to make shocking pictures. You really see on another picture that this part is outside of the iron. Basically somewhere here where we have the connection table. Well, it's not nice. So that's why really, we need a bit attention on that. It's not really complicated, but you have to have, I would say, the correct tools when you work. Again, you are the profession, please use the tools close to that profession. And I said, this is of course not a good one, and the other one I showed before. I know in a do-it-yourself shop you can buy it together with, I would say, some crimps. Maybe for your car radio could work, but also this requires some amps. If it is a real one, and also in your car you don't like to have the sparking finally. So this is really nonsense. This tool, it's really totally cheap stuff. Not wise to use. Okay, let me show you some what we need on camping, and then I think we can go for lunch. I don't have a mouse anymore. This is just from out of a catalog from tools. So I like it basically. Then of course here you can see the different shape you can crimp. Yeah, so I think maybe the older guys from know it still from a cable network and antenna stuff like a coax for the coax cable. Actually, we use a so-called oval crimp. It's basically this, as it has a shape like an oval. So this is the one we actually use in all our products. So that's why also the tool you may buy by the way, where it is. Yeah, you may also see it like here. This is of course the basically this tool. This is the one we need. When you search for a tool like this, then oval crimp is basically the word you may have to search. And as I said, you can buy it really, as I said, Amazon, I think 20 euro. Even this one I bought maybe 30 years ago when I will also do a bit car hi-fi. I said, you buy it once. It's in principle impossible to destroy. Or maybe you have to open bottles, etc. But then still it will not.
Multi-tool.
Yeah, it's a multi-tool. You can also hammer. Now it's really. Please be careful when you buy tools. As I said, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. It's really valid, especially for tools, also for screwdriver. Of course, you can also have a set of screwdriver, 5 screwdrivers for less than 10 euro. But to be honest, if you like to use them every day, you will not be happy with them. So, good. That's the story around crimping. Yeah. So please, next time when I ask, do you have what are you use? I would like to have already the pictures on your smartphone. And not just a picture from Amazon, please. Okay. Ready for lunch?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, you can give it to me. Yeah.
Here is the switch.
Yeah. Back in my mystic toolbox.
I wish to ask you something. I noticed in service as well, in these products, the golden one, the blue lamp is blinking. For instance, the water is missing,
Okay.
but the water tank is filled in. So I asked my colleague, what you do about that? He said, you need to exchange the whole water tank. We had cases.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, I said the blinking maybe mainly see that the magnet is
Okay,
either not working
okay.
or
They
is
check-
already heavily corroded due to an inner crack, or